All right, chickadees. This is Mama Hen coming to you live by surprise from Command Central. I just felt like I've had this question a lot. And so I thought, well, maybe if I can put it into a little video tutorial, maybe that will also help others of you who might just not have asked the question. The thing that I keep running into, and feel free to say hi and let me know you're here. Who's watching, so that I know that you see me. If you have questions, you can also ask along the way. And then if I don't see your questions while I'm talking right now, just live, I will keep an eye on for the replay for when you get to watch it later. But the question that I've been getting a lot of, and the problem that people are having, is about setting your schedule and feeling like, am I being productive enough? Am I doing enough? And I've sent a couple of emails that kind of go over some of this. So hopefully the more we talk about it, the more comfortable you'll be, because I have several people that still struggle with it. So it does take some time to kind of let yourself relax into a homeschool schedule. We come to homeschooling with kind of a mindset of this is how school works, and the pace and the schedule of the assignments of what they're doing in school. I've got to do that now at home. Especially those of you who came to us that were COVID schoolers, who had done some of that virtual online schooling where the teachers were setting a pace and saying, this is what you've got to do. You kind of have that in your mind that somehow I can set the pace and we can do this ourselves, which is true, you can. But what's even more true is you don't have to do that pace. The point of homeschooling is you get to pick and choose the learning materials. You get to set the pace and the schedule of any assignments and learning activities that you're doing, and then you just keep track of the progress. And so when you're setting that pace and that schedule, especially this time of year when we're thinking about what's been working, what's not working, this is a good time to reframe your mindset and start thinking about what works in our schedule. If your kids are bucking the assignments and telling you that either they're bored, it's too hard, it's too easy, it's whatever, it's something to consider, maybe switching up the materials. But also the pace is another thing. And so if they're sitting there and they're doing an hour worth of work, just nonstop, seat work, structured lesson time, and they're fatiguing out and you're bucking heads about it and arguing with them and you're having meltdowns, then let's rethink that structure and that pace. And so you have to find the balance that works for you. Well, if you're a structured, regimented person that has chore charts and everybody does this chore, and you're organized like that, then a little bit more structured, organized, regimented school time might also make sense to you. I was never like that. I was never like, today we clean the bathrooms, tomorrow we're working on sweeping floors and vacuuming. It never was a schedule like that. We are a lot more unstructured in our lives. And so trying to impose that kind of structure onto our schoolwork caused a lot of fighting and a lot of stress that didn't need to be there. And so, but you have to find that balance of what works and what doesn't for that structured and unstructured time that you're going to devote to your learning activities. And the kids do need a lot more unstructured, self-directed things that they can just do. You don't need to schedule their whole day out and keep them busy doing stuff. The point of learning is for them to take that responsibility on themselves. Watch for where those sparks of curiosity are happening and see what you can do to contribute to that, to let them go and do more of those kinds of things. But you have to find that balance for you personally, what you're wired like, and what the way the rest of your house is really structured. If your child needs that kind of structure, then set down a schedule and say, this is the times that we're going to do stuff, and this is the times we're going to take breaks. That can help some kids too. But a lot of kids, they don't work like that. And so you have to figure that out for what works for you and what works for your child. You also have to consider that there is an ebb and a flow to productivity and recovery. We just spent all of December on go, 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 go. So if you don't feel really productive or motivated right now, and you feel like maybe we're like trying to, start over and like, get a push and move forward, like you've lost that forward momentum, it might be because you need a bit more rest. And we don't, in this culture, give ourselves the permission to not be productive sometimes. But those times of in not being productive are rest, and that contributes to being productive again. There are cycles to creativity. There are seasons. We're in the whole world is in a season of the weather is in a season of rest right now. All the trees and everything, everybody's resting, and there will be productivity again. Why not give ourselves that same kind of cycle of ebb and flow as well? And so those are some of the things that you need to consider as you're trying to set your schedule. For me, when my kids were young, we didn't have a regimented schedule that I would say by 8 o'clock, we're going to have breakfast and we're going to have it cleaned up. Then at 9 o'clock, we're going to do reading. And then at 10 o'clock, and it was not a schedule like that. We would never have kept that up. But in order to keep myself on like track and feel like I knew what the day was structured like, they knew what the day was structured like, we had a list of a routine of what we were going to cover. So every day, and I had 3 of them for a while there. They were all little ones, all at the same time. And so there's limited amounts of me to go around. And so each one of them would have a time that they were reading to me. And their reading time was usually about 15, 20 minutes max. That was the end of their ability to focus anymore. Their attention span was done. And so it was fine for them to go on and do something else. And then you can send them to go, pick up socks or something out of their room while you're reading with the next one. They don't all have to be sitting there, you trying to do math over here and you trying to do reading over here. You can focus your attention on one child at a time and just let them have a one-on-one read something to me today. And we're going to work where you are at your level on that. And then move on to everybody has to write something. Now, writing was a little bit easier. They could all work together at the same time and I could watch what they were doing. But we did a lot of what I call copy work, what's called copy work. And the reason why we did that was because it separates the creative part from the editing part of it. So it's so far removed that we're just copying somebody else's words. And so they're focusing on the letters and the spacing, the handwriting part of it, the spelling, the grammar, the punctuation, the capitalization, all of that stuff is things that they're focusing on. My favorite color is blue. And they copy that. And I would write it on the exact same paper that they had as their writing paper. When they got a little bit older, I could maybe write it like on a chalkboard or a whiteboard or something, and then they would copy it onto their paper. Once they got used to that letter spacing and were good at that, then they could copy from the board like that. Then when they even got older, then I could just dictate it to them and say, my favorite color is blue, write that sentence. And they could write that sentence and do it from memory, and that develops their writing skills in a progressive way. Now, we would also do creative writing stuff where they would tell me things that they wanted to write about, and I would either just let them write however they write, with whatever grammar, whatever spelling, however it looks, and they could read from their own paper what they wrote to me, and that would be the creative writing part of it. We might come back at some point in time and edit that, but we might not, because the two processes don't necessarily have to complete to get each paper has to be completely polished and ready to go. Sometimes just keeping that spark of creativity is good. They could also dictate to me and I could write it down for them and then let them read that. And so, but every day they would do the reading activity, the writing activity, and then some kind of math activity. And they each had their own math books, and we would go through different things in their math book, and they could work on their math. or a worksheet. But sometimes we would do like a game together, and that counts as a math activity because they're learning that 1-to-1 ratio, and that's you know, concrete math that builds the foundations of what they need to know, and the logic and all of that is important stuff. And so, or we might cook something and they're measuring with me and following the directions, or build something if we were doing some kind of art project and they had to measure things. And all of those are math activities, and we could sometimes do those together as a group. But each day the routine was, you're going to read something, you're going to write something, you're going to do something math. And they knew that. And then I would read to them. We did a program when they were really little that was all about picture books. And I think the program still exists. It's called 5 in a Row, but a lot of the books that we used, I think, are out of print now. So they may have updated it, or it may still just be available with the books that are out of print on it. But the idea was that you would read a picture book to them every single day, and you would read the same one 5 days in a row, 5 in a row. And it had story stretcher activities in there with it that they would recommend in different subject areas. So say like we did like the story of Ping one time, and so then it's a little story about a little boat guy that lived in China on the Yangtze River, and this little duck, his name was Ping, and he would get on the boat at night, and he would be the last one, and he would get a little swat on his hiney, and he didn't like doing that. So he was dawdling along, and the boat ended up leaving him one night. So this whole story was about this little duck. And so we looked up then on a map. We had a little map, and we would draw little paper circles, and they would draw little pictures of like the duck, and then color that in, and they would stick that on the map for China, so they could remember where that happened, or even the Yangtze River, and be able to tell me where the Yangtze River was in China. That is social studies. That's geography. And it connected to the book that we all read together. If I'm reading, they're all reading with me. Everyone's listening. I'm reading it once, once a day. But we also could look up ducks and talk about how their feet are webbed and what they like to eat and where they, whatever, different things about that, and their life cycle from the egg to whatever. And you can look that up. That's a science lesson then that you can do. And they could maybe do a little dictation story with me and tell me back some of the things that they knew, or they could act it out. Those are all literature, creativity, English based kind of activities. So whatever it was, they would give us multiple activities like that for us to choose from, to go over different things like that. So I didn't have to be like super like imaginative to go, okay, well, what could this story be about? But once you get the hang of that, you can go check out any book and do the same idea with them. We had like Miss Spider's tea party, and we could talk about tea, and we can make tea, and then we can have, manners lesson on how, tea. We can also talk about tea and where tea comes from. And did you know there's a tea plantation in Charleston? You can go there and see how tea is grown and how it's harvested and how it's, packaged and whatever, all those different things. And then the next day we might talk about spiders and go online and watch them, different videos of them building webs, and what do the different kinds of spiders look like, and they have spots, and they have all these different things that you can find out that are science based as well. So you start to get that kind of just curiosity about it. And if you run out of activity ideas before the 5 days are up, then switch books. Or if they're bored with the book, switch books. We did one, I remember it was something lentil, and the kid was playing a harmonica in the book, and we got harmonicas, or maybe it was just kazoos. Those are a little easier than harmonicas. And oh my gosh, they played music forever on that. And I remember we ended up reading that book. I think it was 7 days we did that book, because they loved that book. And so then when they got a little bit older, then we switched to chapter books, and the same idea with the same program, but it was chapter books. And so each day you'd read one chapter out of the chapter book, and then there were story stretcher activities to go along with that. So it makes it really easy to just do kind of like a daily routine that way. You read, you write, you do math. And the writing activity that they didn't have to be more than 10-15 minutes. The math activity might be a half hour. Like I said, the reading activity was maybe 15-20 minutes. And then my reading and our activity was maybe an hour. And so we could get done pretty much with their structured time in about 2 hours. And then they had the rest of the day to go do other things, and whatever we did might spark their curiosity to go do more stuff. So like if we read Miss Spider's Tea Party, they might want to build a fort and bring all of their stuffed animals down there and have a little tea party with them underneath the fort, a blanket fort, you just never knew what it was that they were interested in doing. And all of that is still learning time, but it's unstructured learning time. And so, my structured time of what I was trying to get done, had a nice little routine, kind of an ebb and a flow to it that we could count on every single day. But it wasn't overwhelming to say, well, it's 9 o'clock and we're behind. We've got to get going, people. Come on. Finish what you're doing. It wasn't that wasn't helpful to us. So we didn't do that. And then when they got to high school, then we switched from having a daily routine to more of a weekly routine, and their assignments were written out. We were actually in a resource center where they had assignments, the classes that they were doing, and then they had weekly assignments that were assigned to them that they had to get done this week. And so anything else that we were adding on there that they weren't doing as part of the resource center, it went on their weekly chart, and they had to figure out when to get their assignments done. And if they wanted to do all of their math lessons in one day, that's fine. Do all your math lessons in one day. But don't wait to do all your reading. Because they had, literature and writing and things, composition things that they had to keep working on too. But it was more divided up that way. So it was more of a weekly routine of these are the things that you're going to get done this week. And it started to shift that weight of responsibility off of me to have to say, here's what you got to do today. Here's what you got to do today. And started to let them kind of plan it out and say, this is how it's going to work for us. So anyway, I just thought that hopefully that would help for you. I'm going to take a look right here in the comments that are popping up and see if anybody had questions. Routine and schedule works for us. One writer that doesn't want to write, one that doesn't enjoy writing at all, so needs a very different approach. You could definitely work more on whether it's a handwriting issue, because some people have dysgraphia is a thing that they have trouble with the pen and paper thing. And so we can look at some resources depending on what level they are for that. But definitely consider what your writing program is asking them to do. If it's asking them to combine the creative here, fill in the blank and figure out how to write, blue. My favorite color is blank, and they're supposed to write blue out of their head and get it spelled right and get the letter placement right. That's a lot. That's a lot for them at some levels. So just consider some of those things if they're combining those processes. And I see a lot of programs that do that. So just consider that as well. But we can also get some resources about dysgraphia that could be a possibility. There is another kind of paper that I like a lot called Channys visual writing tablet. And she has math, printing for print, and for I got a box that popped up. It distracted me. She has it for math and for writing in print and in cursive. And so it lays it out not just in the lines this way, but it has visual vertical lines that go this way as well to help them out with their alignment. And that can help too, especially for kids who are struggling. Let me see if I can find another question here. Okay. Highly recommend the natural learner. Oh, yeah, she's wonderful. Leah McDermott. I follow her online, the natural learner. She's amazing. But yeah, she has good, healthy routine schedules and workshops about that too. So that's very helpful. All right. So hopefully that helps encourage you along the way here as you're kind of refocusing and what you're doing for the next the next part of this year, setting your figuring out that balance, that ebb and flow, what's working, what's not working, and is it the schedule and the pace that you're doing. So hopefully that will help you kind of find that balance that works for you. So talk to you later. See you later, chickadees. Fly, fly.